we're in the midst of unprecedented, really, truly, an unprecedented event in humankind. A virus is spreading that the world was totally, totally not prepared for. And in response, everything is shutting down. Airports, restaurants, sporting events, simchas, minyanim, everything is shutting down. I don't think there's anything in history that compares to what we've witnessed here, what we're going through, what we're experiencing. It's, like I said, totally unprecedented. And as parents, somehow we have to like always expect the unexpected. We don't get to tell our kids like, hey, give us 2 weeks off while we figure things out, like quarantine from our kids. We kind of have to be ready for anything and everything. Whatever comes, we've got to be ready. Now, single parents have it even harder because there's no spouse to rely on or fall back on for help, support, whether it's the mundane stuff, help around the house, or dealing with the kids. And in many cases, your kids look to you and you alone for support and everything else that they need. And if you're fortunate enough to co-parent, then you definitely have it easier. But still, the same unique challenges still apply. So, what do we do here? What do we do? I've gotten a lot of questions over the past couple of days from parents that have private messaged me with different specific situations they're dealing with, all specific to the coronavirus situation and the isolationism and the overwhelmingness of being together with the kids for so long, for hours and hours and days on end, and the prospect of it continuing for who knows how long. We really have no idea. And unfortunately, a lot of these questions, there really isn't necessarily a very good answer. I certainly don't have all the answers. One parent, for example, unfortunately called me asking me how she's going to manage financially. Her work is not possible during this time. As you can imagine, many different industries are on their backside right now. So sadly, this mother called me. What am I supposed to do right now? I have no income. Now, the truth is that the best I can offer her is my empathy and my tefillos, because, like I said, we're dealing with such an unprecedented occurrence, such an experience the likes of which I don't think mankind has ever had. And while it is an extremely tough and challenging and difficult situation, in particular those who are suffering financially, as is generally my way, for those of you that know me, I always prefer to focus on the things that are within our power to change, and to, as best as we can, accept the things that we can't change. And in this situation, there is really plenty that is within our power to impact. And so with that sort of preface, I want to really suggest a huge reframe this whole coronavirus thing. You know, human memory is a very interesting thing. There are things that we remember really well, and there are things that fall very far from our consciousness. Like, we just completely forget about it, and it's buried away somewhere deeply in the recesses of our minds. What things do we remember and what things do we not remember? Really sort of subject to many factors, but I want to discuss one factor in memory for a moment. When we have a significant experience in life, that experience, I kind of call it a memory anchor. Significant experiences in life becomes a sort of a memory anchor. In other words, we tend to remember all sorts of things that happen during significant events. It just sticks in a different way. Beyond specific memories, there's also just the feeling that we had. We kind of sort of remember the feeling that we had during that significant time. And I know personally, I can recall many such cases. I don't know about you all. And by the way, if anybody, I'm kind of acclimating to this Zoom by myself right now, but I do believe that there is a function here where you can type in questions. And if anybody wants to test it out, and I'll see if it pops up on my screen, you can, or you don't have to, whatever is your preference. But I don't know if you have memories of this sort, but I have memories that go back to like really, really young. I have memories that go back to like 4 or 5 years old. I remember when my younger brother was born, and I was 4 years old, and I came down with the chicken pox right then when he was born. You guys remember the chicken pox, right? It's like a distant memory. So I came down with the chicken pox, and I remember I have this memory in my mind that my parents were talking about how to deal with it, because obviously a baby coming back home and older sibling with chickenpox, not something that you can take lightly. Beyond just the memory of my parents' conversation, I remember feeling secure, and I remember not feeling scared or worried. I remember feeling that things were under control. So why is this relevant right now? Why am I bringing this up? Obviously, again, we're talking about unprecedented times. We're talking about an experience that is really, together with all of humanity, we're going through an extremely significant event, an extremely significant experience. And people for years and years and years will be talking about coronavirus. And you remember back in 2020, the coronavirus, what were you doing? Where were you? When did you get sick? Do you know anybody that got sick? People are going to be talking about this forever. And our kids will be talking about this forever. It's a seriously significant life event and life experience. And when we're dealing with a significant life experience, we can plug in so much, because there is so much of that sort of muscle memory that comes along with a significant life experience. A child's character can be impacted during a time like this. So we really have to ensure that we do our best to sort of impart the most important ideas to our children right now. So this is my great Corona reframe. This whole thing, the Corona experience, can really, I believe, enrich your life and your relationship with your children. It can be an opportunity to teach your children extremely valuable life lessons in the midst of a crisis. And by the way, what better time is there to teach a valuable lesson than when you're like in the trenches, when you're in it, right? It's very, very easy to pontificate and to talk and to, right? When it comes to parenting, I see people are chatting down there. When it comes to parenting, it's not so much what you say, but what you do and what your kids are able to see. Thank you for the tests, everyone down there. I see that they came through. Thank you. Right, so we have to be ready to follow through on all these ideals and all these things that we're trying to impart to our children. We have to be prepared to follow through on them in real life. And we're all dealing with real life right now, real life. So this whole thing is really an opportunity to teach your children extremely valuable life lessons. And I don't believe that this is an opportunity that comes around very often. So maybe just a couple of pointers here, things to consider during this really crazy, chaotic time. Number one, this is true for kids of all ages, in particular younger, but really for all children, even high schoolers. Structure and stability. Our children need to feel stable. They need to have structure. And I've just been, sorry, excuse me. Bear with me here. I have been so amazed, Mika Amcha Yisrael, I've been so amazed by how I've been inundated with just resource after resource, online materials and programs and events, ways that children can have a positive experience, whether it's Torah-based or educational or fun, across the spectrum, all kinds of things. We need to find these programs, and we have to avail ourselves of them. We have to set them up for our children and make a schedule out of it. Right? The structure is so crucial. Don't just do it sort of chaplap, like off the cuff, take it as it comes. Try to make a spreadsheet of it. Seriously. Have a schedule for your kids. The scheduling is so important. One of my kids not recently, this morning, or last night rather, we were talking about bedtime. and he wanted to go to bed very late last night. He said, Tati, it's it's not a school night. We have an off day. And I said, no, it's not an off day. It's not an off day. There's school. It's just that we can't be in school right now because of this virus. But we're going ahead with our schedule. We're doing what we normally do. You're going to go to bed when you go to bed. You're going to wake up when you wake up. You're just going to have to do certain things you normally do in school. You're going to have to do here. Obviously, as the day goes on, things don't go exactly the way they would in school. We do our best, really, and it's not going to be perfect by any stretch. But at least in here, up here, you have to be thinking structure, stability. So that's one. Another really, really important factor. We have an incredible opportunity here to spend valuable time with our kids. Now, for some, this is a major stress, and probably for all parents, this is a major stress. But we have to again see the opportunity that lies in here, because so many of us are so busy all the time, and we don't have the time for our kids that we would like to give them, and we're kind of being forced right now by God Himself, like all this quarantine and isolationism, right? We're basically being forced to sit with our kids. So take the opportunity. I mean, there's just so much today you can get pulled into, the Netflix, the WhatsApp chats, the whatever. There's so much, right? Instagram. It's so easy. I'm sure that hours and hours and hours can get sucked up so fast, and before you know it, the days through. Don't waste this opportunity. It's really, make a serious effort to connect with your kids, play with them, do activities with them, talk with them. So important. There's just so much you can do with this time to enhance the parent-child bond. You have to put thought into it. Another very important point. Kids are difficult under all circumstances. And when you're talking about such an upheaval, such a change to the regular normal schedule, then it's even more so, double, triple. However difficult, challenging children may be under normal circumstances, right now it's off the charts. So you have to know that when you're sitting in your living room and your kids are running around wild and they're making a huge mess, and maybe they colored on the wall or did something else impossible, just remind yourself, this is very, very normal. It's very normal. And I said earlier in the afternoon in a video that I put out, and it may have seemed like it was in jest or just cute or funny, but if you have to, or even if you don't have to, it's just a good idea. Go stand in front of a mirror, unless you're too freaked out by it. But try it. Stand in front of a mirror and talk to yourself. Self-talk. Say, David is totally out of sorts. There's no structure to his day. As much as I'm trying to give structure, and up here I'm thinking structure, at the end of the day, it's not school. It's not the same. So of course he's out of sorts. It makes so much sense. I have to cut him some slack. It's totally normal that he's acting out. I see a question here. What kind of structure do our kids get staying home for 8 weeks? With little kids, that's possible, not with older kids. It's a blessing to be with your kids. Kids make memories every day, a mess, etc. It's memories. Okay, so somebody wants to know, what kind of structure do our kids get staying home for 8 weeks? And the one asking wants to know that while with little kids, it's more possible, older kids, not as much. And I want to just suggest, before I just get back on track here, that structure is possible for 8 weeks or 10 weeks or 12 weeks and for all ages. I am not saying that it's easy, and I'm not saying that it's going to be a simple endeavor. It takes a tremendous amount of thought, really, really thinking into it and doing a lot of research. And some people are good with spreadsheets. Really, just setting up a schedule for the week. Sometimes it's so discombobulating. I know for myself in my life, just when you think about everything, there's so much. And when you have everything in your mind and it's all weighing on you, it could be extremely difficult to make sense out of it and put it into any kind of order or into any kind of fashion that makes sense, that can be positive. So I would strongly recommend that you try projecting out for 1 week. If you can do it for 1 week, You can do it for 8 weeks. And again, I don't mean to oversimplify. I hope that nobody takes this the wrong way. I don't mean to oversimplify. Believe me, I'm well aware of the challenges. But again, if it can be done for 1 week, it can be done for 8 weeks. It's a matter of being creative. And I believe that the resources are out there and available to make it happen. So again, these are things that we really have to think about. We have to really, really put thought into. Now, the next point maybe is the most important one, specifically in this situation. I don't want to say it's the most important because they're all really important, but a really, really important point, and that is we have to teach our kids not to panic. No matter what, we try to maintain as much normalcy as possible. We explain to our kids to take basic common sense precautions. I've said earlier, wash your hands, sanitize, social distancing to whatever extent the doctors and Rabbanim are recommending or urging or requiring, right? Obviously, we have to follow whatever is said, whatever the government is recommending, whatever our Rabbanim are telling us, we have to listen and we have to follow through. We can't be going against the tide because we can't be the ones responsible for some kind of a spread. But at the same time, we don't want to impart to our children a sense of panic or anxiety or fear. Because let me tell you something. Anxiety is more contagious than coronavirus. Okay? It is. They're saying that coronavirus spreads like wildfire. I'm telling you, anxiety spreads even more. So we have to have a balanced approach. We have to be very, very careful the way that we express to our children the concern. Concern is healthy. Concern is normal. Concern shows that you're taking it seriously. But when it rises to the level of fear and panic, that's when our kids become discombobulated. That's when our kids really learn a life lesson that we don't want to teach, right? We started with the idea that we have an opportunity to teach our kids amazing lessons. And what we've come to now, full circle, is that there's also an opportunity, God forbid, to impart a very, very, very unhealthy life idea and approach, which would be panic and anxiety and fear. And we have to make sure that no matter what, we never get to that point. And if we're feeling like we're getting panicky, we must find a private space to express that panic. Never, ever in front of our kids. End of the day, right? We all want our kids to grow up and be able to face the circumstances that we all know they're going to one day, right? We all hope for that. We want our kids to become adults, and we want them to hopefully have the tools to deal with life. Life is tough, right? But again, right now we have opportunity to teach them, to show them by example exactly how to deal with a crisis, exactly how to deal with a difficult situation, with a scary situation. We don't panic. Very, very, very important. Another thing that I think, in particular for single parents, can be very, very difficult, at least from my experience, talking to so many of you and others. Reach out to family and friends for help. I think that a lot of the single parents that I've talked to have a sort of Superman or Superwoman complex, for good reason, by the way, because you've endured amazing, amazing challenges. And in large part, many of you have overcome them on your own to some extent or another. But at some point, all of us need to rely on others. And I think that it's very, very worthwhile just consider to run through a list in your mind. Who are the people I can rely on? Do I have any family or friends, either local or not local, who in some way, shape, or form I can ask for some help in some way, whatever it is that I need? Because sometimes we just isolate, and there really is help out there. And if we're willing to extend our hand out and reach out to somebody for help, sometimes we'll be surprised that there's help available. So really, with all this in mind, and we're coming up on the end over here, I just want to say that you're all facing a challenge, the likes of which we've never seen before. There's a lot of uncertainty right now, and people want answers. I want answers, I know. Constantly seeking out the next WhatsApp that comes through. Is this going to give me more information? Is that going to give me a better insight? And the truth is that Nobody really knows. So we really have to redouble our efforts here to connect with our children. Remember that an experience they're going to remember forever. Um, no matter what, again, like we started with, we don't get to take 2 weeks off. We don't get to go into a 2 week quarantine from our kids and say, hey, I'll be back when I've got this figured out. We're expected to just jump in. Whatever is happening, whenever it happens, we have got to be there. We've got to be ready. We always have to be ready to truck on. But just remember that if you approach this right, it can really be a tremendous opportunity, really a tremendous opportunity to show love, to build your relationship with your children, and to really teach them invaluable life lessons. I'm going to take a quick peek down here at some of so we've got a lot of chat going on, chatter. God doesn't give you what you can't handle. So first of all, God doesn't give you what you can't handle. I think that's really a very, very incredible way to live life. If you're able to really keep that frame of mind, it's a very, very powerful belief to live by. Because if you believe that, then you know that there's light at the end and that you can come through and that you will come through no matter what. And what to do when one parent at home has to go to work and kids are home alone. When one parent is at home, okay, one parent at home, meaning it's a single parent situation, and that parent has to go to work and the kids are home alone. It's very, very, very tough. I'm not going to tell you that I have all the answers. You have to do the best that you can to implore your employer to give you just some time, even if it's an hour or two, to leave early or to go to work late. Spend a little more time with your kids. Make sure that no matter what, they're in good hands, that they're safe. If you have older kids who are able to babysit, then you do what you have to do. We're all trying to survive here. I would say maybe most important for somebody in your situation is don't beat yourself up, because it sounds to me like you don't really have a choice. So do your absolute best to make sure your kids are safe, and then do absolutely whatever you can to make it as valuable, enriching an experience as possible. If it means taking all this advice that we discussed tonight and applying it in the mornings or in the evenings when you're with them, be that as it may. But know that if you can't follow through on this stuff because you are going to work, then you're not at fault for that. And you have to support your family. You have to put food on the table. So definitely don't beat yourself up. Someone else writes, I think the biggest challenge as single parents at this point is having the financial burdens, struggling on our own and unable to work, coupled with having to homeschool, maintain normalcy, and prepare for Pesach amidst this. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And the financial struggles, like I said before, they're very, very real. And in fact, these struggles I'm finding across the board. Many, many people are suffering right now. Businesses falling apart, jobs, people being laid off or being put onto unpaid time off. It's a very, very seriously challenging time. And again, I'm not going to pretend that I have answers to those questions. These are really, really significant issues. And I would just really strongly recommend and urge that while things can be extremely difficult, to whatever extent you can focus on those things that are within your power. People that know me, I'm constantly quoting the Serenity Prayer from Alcoholics Anonymous. If any of you are familiar with it, it's a brilliant sort of prayer. They call it a prayer, something sort of to live by. I see that I'm running out of time. We're going to be over in a few minutes. It's going to knock us out. So just leave you with this, the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. It's really an extremely, extremely powerful sort of mantra to live by. If we're able to accept the things that we can't change and have the courage to change the things that we can, and obviously the wisdom to know the difference, because it could become conflated. It could easily become murky, and we can think things are in our power that are not, and we can let go of things that are really within our power. So we have to know what's what. But to the extent that we're able to accept the things we can't change and focus on those things that we can, we're going to be able to actually have some kind of a positive impact and actually get somewhere through all of this. But when we get stuck in those things that really are out of our control, that's when we spiral, when we really, really spin out of control. And I think that it's incumbent upon us, for our kids' sake, to really try to focus on those things that we are able to impact. Somebody says over here, the legal age to leave kids watching the younger kids is 12, 13, but you have to know your child. You can Google it. Absolutely. Yes. I don't think the legal age, in fact, is 12, 13. I think that in New York, at least, I think that it's each parent has prerogative, technically, but certainly you have to know your children. Interesting that you mentioned the Serenity Prayer. I personally have been attending Al-Anon for a few months and feel so calm and at peace despite all this craziness. Thank you. Yeah. I think that it's something that needs to be internalized. It doesn't just kind of, we don't just say it and then everything kind of like gets better. In fact, quite the opposite. Those things that we can't change, they don't change. I mean, sometimes they do, but it doesn't change as a direct result of our mindset. The fact is that when we're able to put the focus on those things that we can change, then we're able to find a domino effect. Sometimes that can be the domino that tips everything else over. When we focus on those things that we can change, and we're looking to enhance our life and to create positivity in our lives, it could have a trickle-down effect onto all kinds of things, and sometimes even impact those things that we thought were out of our control. Okay, it looks like we are going to be running out of time very, very shortly. I think we have about 5 minutes left. If there's anybody that has any questions that they would like to pose here, maybe we can come back to it a different time. In fact, maybe I'll just leave it at this. My email address, most of you probably have it, but I just posted it. Oh, I think I posted it to an individual privately. How do I post a message? Chat. Let's see. Okay, I can't figure this out. But you can email me at RDD, that's Rabbi Doniel Drandoff, RDD at myef.org, myef.org. If you have any questions, and maybe we can do a follow-up. Oh, I see Chana posted it. Thank you, Chana. I appreciate that very much. You can certainly pose your questions if there's anything in particular, and maybe we can come back to them. And I know Chana Blonder's here, and she's one of our fabulous clinicians in my extended family, and I'm sure we'll be hearing from her in a future forum on Zoom. And Amir Hashem, we'll be in touch over the coming days about future forums like this. And Amir Hashem should really just protect us all. We should all be safe and healthy, and our kids should just get the experience and the feeling that we know that we can give to them through all of this insanity. Be well, everyone. Have a great night.